Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I'm Pastor Mark Baze, and thank you once again for being so patient with me as our schedule is just kind of all over the place. We're having to do shows late at night. Sometimes we're able to do them at the original time, which was 9:30 in the mornings, but it's going to be okay. I promise you the work of the ministry is not stopped. As a matter of fact, I've been doing a lot of work today on getting ready for tomorrow's Bible study, which is studying Abraham, finding the biblical truth. This is going to be, I think, session number 16. So tomorrow night, I hope that you can join us at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time to continue studying Abraham. We're going to be looking at, sorry, I know you got some audio going on there, so I have that muted now. I don't know why it was coming through, but there you go. Yeah, studying Abraham, finding the biblical truth. Seems to be an echo coming in there. So, I've got it all taken care of now with the background noise. So, all that being said, we got a little bit of thunderstorms going on here in southeast Oklahoma. Hopefully, we'll be able to continue on and we'll get through just fine. I think I've got the echo fixed now. If it's not fixed, then just say, hey, it's still going. But very excited for our Abraham series. Now, I do want to let you know we did have a slight hiccup on Sunday morning. It was just my fault. We didn't have the full live stream of our Sunday school, right? Sounds super hick. Sunday school lesson. That's just my fault. I do apologize. The good news is we do have the Hosea sermon up. I will get the Sunday school recording done. Just be patient with me, okay, as we're working on all this. And so let's see here. Other things that we have going on. We are actually going to be getting pretty close to announcing the Spring Bible Conference. I'm not quite ready yet for that. It is coming up as far as the announcement. That way you can start getting it on your mind. We'll have the exact dates and everything else. Very excited about that. I've really been thinking about it for a good while now, and so I hope that you are excited for it as well. This is obviously the Bible conference that we have at the church in blue, okay? So, now let's just go ahead and get to the main matter at hand. I don't have a ton of different subjects for you as far as all the things going on in the news. I know that Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did a press conference talking about how Tylenol could possibly be linked to autism. You know, here's my thoughts. The people who in 2020 were crying, trust the science, a lot of them are very much opposed to any scientific investigations into whether or not there are any possible links to medications and the cause of autism. And I don't think that anybody is saying that autism is strictly caused by medications or that autism is the cause of vaccines or anything else. I just think that the general concept is, hey, we're seeing a massive number, a massive increase in these diagnoses of autism. Why don't we just try to see, is there something going on today that wasn't necessarily going on in the past? And maybe that will allow us to maybe figure out why there are so many children that are being diagnosed. Now, is it overdiagnosed by doctors? Is it, I don't know, a lack of discipline in some cases? I think we would all agree there are some children that are genuinely different, unique than other kids as far as their capacity to engage socially, also just the way their mind works. It doesn't mean they're less intelligent. Sometimes it can even mean that they are operating at a higher level and they can process information in a very fast and different way. So these are all very fun and interesting things to explore and to discuss. I just think let's trust, why don't we trust the science? Why don't we just see where the studies go? And the interesting thing is even in 2020, when people were saying trust the science, we had doctors coming out saying, hey, ivermectin actually can be helpful. Hey, do you realize that masks aren't really doing any good for us? And these people, of course, were opposed to that because it's not the science that they like. It's not the science they agree with. I say all that to say that's the big major thing in the news. I know there's some interesting things going on as far as foreign policy, whether that's the UN, Ukraine, you name it. I'm just not going to focus on that tonight, okay? What we're going to focus on tonight is very much surrounding the memorial for Charlie Kirk, okay? And I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. I didn't watch it live. For one, I was pretty much preaching still at that point because it was 11 o'clock Mountain Time, I believe. So I do want to just spend some time reflecting on the event itself. It was quite an amazing thing. Obviously, Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's wife, is really the major person that everybody's talking about in her speech that she gave, and I did watch some of that speech, and it was quite a moving thing. Now, a whole bunch of things are going to be true about this event. Number one, it was very evangelical, okay? From the words said to the songs sang, but what do you expect, all right? Charlie was far from a independent fundamentalist, right? KJV Bible thumper. So you would anticipate, whether it was the pastor speaking or other keynote speakers or the people invited to lead worship, that it was going to have that evangelical flavor to it. Now, there was a decent gospel presentation given, I would say. It was Frank Turek, I believe, was the one who really gave the best presentation there on the gospel. Of course, it was, I think, from everything I heard, it was very much a true memorial service for Charlie Kirk. Now, there certainly were times in which people would say, hey, there were instances of drifting into political speech, which it's hard not to talk about Charlie and not be a little bit political, right? But sure, there's going to be snippets used for probably a good while, whether it was Trump or J.D. Vance or somebody else taking advantage of the situation. Were they taking advantage of the situation? Probably. I mean, a good politician, I would say, takes advantage of every situation. But all those things are going to be said about the event, the left-wing media, and some, I guess, maybe on the right side of the aisle that aren't really big fans of Trump or always looking for a reason to be negative. They'll probably have negative things to say about the event. Okay, that's fine. All right, you can have your critique if you want. I've been to a number of funerals in my life, and I've had critiques of the funerals, okay? And I guess that's what this was to a degree. I'm going to say this, though. Me, right, as a very fundamentalist, I think it was good, okay? Even though I didn't get to watch it live, I didn't watch all 5 hours of it. From everything that I saw, overall, it was good, okay? Tucker Carlson's little speech there didn't ruin anything. Where he was trying to go with that, is he hinting at, hey, did the Jews, they got Jesus. Hey, I wonder who could have got Charlie, right? I don't know. You could read into it all you wanted. I don't know if Tucker necessarily was trying to go there, but maybe. I don't think there was anything that happened at that event. Even Trump's statements, like, I hate my enemies. I may be paraphrasing, or that may be an exact quote of what he said. It was good, okay? I think it was a good thing to have this massive event, people acknowledging God, acknowledging Christ. Yes, the gospel, maybe not perfectly shared by everyone, but I think that the general presentation of it was what we would find to be maybe, let's say, the bare minimum. I think it's a good thing, okay? And the Daily Wire, this is the article that I was pulling up for you. The big moment, of course, here's the headline. Erica Kirk forgives her husband's suspected assassin, says Charlie would have done so too. So that's quite an amazing thing. Of course, we've seen things like this before, whether it's in courts, a person forgiving someone else. I think that if you can genuinely forgive someone, now we need to rightly divide the Bible so we don't apply things like the Sermon on the Mount directly, in which it says, and if you do not forgive others, God will not forgive you. And that's really about what it says. I may be paraphrasing a little bit. I don't exactly have the KJV memorized so I can quote it verbatim, but that's the essence of it. We're not forgiven by forgiving others. So we don't mix that in with our gospel. We're saved by grace through faith. But if you can reach a point where you genuinely do forgive someone, for one, what a great burden you lift off of yourself, being able to take that, the anger, the frustration, the pain, whatever that is, and really be able to just forgive someone, pray for them, trust in God, let the peace of God rule in your hearts. It's a very, very good thing, and you would benefit from it. So Erica Kirk, I have no reason to believe that she's lying here. I think it's a great thing for her to publicly forgive the assassin. Now, this did bring up the interesting discussion. Okay, well, she forgave him, so is he off the hook now? Are they just going to pardon him? Are they going to seek the death penalty? Everything else? There's a difference between forgiving someone as an individual and then the state holding someone to accountability and seeking justice. And in this case, the individual can be forgiven. They can be forgiven by God, reconciled unto God, and yet they still need to answer for their crimes according to the law of the state or the country. So, while some try to bring that up a little bit, it's not really going to go anywhere. It's not going to make much headway because most people who have some level of intellectual honesty, they understand the difference between an individual forgiving someone and the state still needing to uphold justice. Mary says definitely a lot of NAR representation. I'm trying to remember what was that? What does that mean again? NAR. I've seen people use that term before, and I assume it does not mean National Association of Realtors. New Apostolic Reformation, is that what you're talking about? A little bit of Pentecostalism, evangelicalism. Yeah, the left would probably try to use the term Christian nationalism. Yeah, now that you say it, I'm familiar with this now. Yeah, the idea of, hey, we basically need to have a state religion again, a national religion again. So I understand where you're coming from. Thank you. Jerry says the worst thing was some of the networks' post-event commentary. Some portrayed it as an ecumenical gathering. Yeah, and I don't know, it kind of was, I would say, to a degree. I mean, you had a Catholic there, you had standard evangelicalism there, you had Judaism there. Ben Shapiro was there, right? So it was a very big multi-religion, multi-doctrinal event for sure. And so like I said, you've heard me. I don't think I have to convince you that I am not an ecumenicalist. You've heard me rant many times how ecumenicalism waters down theology and doctrine, and it's just the sake of holding hands and getting along, right? And I say, no, we need to hold to doctrine. And so let's let this church hold to their theology. Let's let this church hold to this theology, and we're going to hold to our theology. And let's just teach and not worry about watering down doctrine for the sake of going along to get along. The great thing about having multiple churches is you can decide what theology, what doctrine you're going to teach in those churches. So, like I said, it was a mixed bag. Overall, I am going to be positive on this. You know me, I can be negative sometimes. I'm going to be positive. I think it was a net good thing, okay? So, massive turnout that came. Obviously, major headliners like Trump was there. Elon Musk was in attendance as well. I think it was a good thing. I think there was a lot of people who heard the gospel in its most basic form. So it's hard for me to complain too much about it, because my expectations are high, but my expectations are low. And so anytime my expectations are just slightly proven wrong, is that the way I'm looking to word this? Anytime my expectations don't come out exactly right, that's not the reality, I'm pleasantly surprised. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? And so I'm still getting used to doing the late night show. I'm not quite as quick, and also it's tough. So do you drink a cup of coffee before you do the show, so you're a little bit energized, right? I've got the caffeine flowing through my system, and I'm able to be a little bit quicker on my feet. Maybe I don't stumble over my words. The issue is that if you drink a cup of coffee, then you just lay awake at night and you can't sleep. Alternatively, you don't drink caffeine, and then you struggle to find the words as you're looking to articulate a particular thought. Okay, so bear with me. I'm trying here. I haven't got this all figured out yet. Rick says it was mostly Hillsong and Bethel music. Yeah, that's what most churches sing anymore nowadays. Jerry agrees with me. It was a good influence on our culture. That's my thoughts. Now Luke, who absolutely is a good thinker and is entitled to his opinion, he says, I personally think it's too early to say whether this was a good thing. All roads seem to be pointing to Rome. I praise God that Frank Turek gave a good gospel, though. Yeah. The title of today's episode, Luke, is It Must Be More Than One Event. So, in a sense, I'm actually going to be agreeing with you, I think. The event in and of itself is, I think, net positive. All right, that's the way I look at it. It is net positive. Where there's some negatives scattered in it, sure, but the event itself, I'm saying net positive. I will say one way you know that it was net positive is the way Christianity Today responded. So I wanted to show you their article on it. Christianity Today, Charlie Kirk's 5-hour memorial combined gospel and politics. That just tells you right there that Christianity Today saw this as way too conservative. All right, way too right-wing. So they just can't quite be completely happy about it. They're almost gritting their teeth as they're talking about it. It says here, Erica Kirk forgave her husband's killer. Christian stars like Chris Tomlin led worship, and MAGA influencers and pastors talked about Jesus and conservatism. So like I said, just imagine reading that there, with gritted teeth here. Erica Kirk forgave her husband's killer. Christian stars, they're just there. They know they need to be happy, right? They need to put on a happy face, because how can you be critical of a woman whose husband was assassinated and her forgive the assassin publicly, all right? How can you not be positive about that? But it's, hey, Trump was there, and there were American flags. And it was very conservative, because people dressed in red, white, and blue. So this is bad, all right? Christianity Today would look at this picture and hiss, right? How terrible it is. There's an American flag. There's Donald Trump, red, white, and blue. This is terrible. Too much patriotism. The gospel was told a little bit too well, probably. That's probably another complaint that they have. It says, before a loud, full stadium in Glendale, Arizona at the memorial service of Christian and conservative activist Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk tearfully forgave the assassin who shot her husband on September 10th. He goes on that they generally did. This was as moderate of an article as the Christianity Today group can probably do. They knew they couldn't be very negative about it, but still, nonetheless, they gave their subtle jabs. President Donald Trump spoke after Erica Kirk, saying that Charlie Kirk did not hate his opponents; he wanted the best for them. And then, of course, they add the quote from Trump, which a lot of the left-wing news are jumping on, right? They're comparing and contrasting Erica's Trump, who is a comedian. He's always a comedian. It doesn't matter where he is. He's going to do his best to, put a spin on things. So Trump, can I do my Trump without caffeine late at night? Let's find out. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. I don't want the best for them. Now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right. But I can't stand my opponent. So Trump, of course, he gave his line, and probably that was, received generally well. I didn't see that actual part of the video. I just know the quote. I imagine people mostly got it. It's one of those things that, like a comedian, it's not always what they say. It's when they say it and how they say it. And Trump is a comedian, plain and simple. So they had to throw that in there, right? Look at Trump, that terrible cult MAGA leader. So Christianity Today, if Christianity Today had something, a little bit teeth gritted, throwing in some subtle jabs here and there, that tells me that it was probably a pretty good overall event for conservatism, all right? So they pretty much left off there. They didn't have a whole lot of negative things to say. They kind of just reported on what happened. It's about as simple as that. Now, this brings me to my main point as we get ready to bring all this to a point, right? We're going to wrap this up in a bow here, okay? I don't know if we're going to go the full 45 to an hour long tonight because, hey, it's late. And sometimes there's things that I need to talk about, and it requires that much time. Sometimes I feel like I just need to cover what I need to cover, and I'm going to leave you wanting more, right? Leave them wanting more, as the Don would say. Even though Donald Trump is known for giving some pretty long speeches, so maybe that's not a good analogy. So, kind of building off of the wisdom of what Luke said, let me say I do agree with your assessment there. It's hard to know whether this event is good or bad. The net positive of the event on its own in just isolation, I say net positive. But the point is, it really does matter what comes after. It has to be more than one event, okay? If we really do want to kind of have this turning to biblical values, if we do want to have a turning to a bold defending of conservatism and Christianity, it can't just be the rally / memorial, what have you, that took place. And that's not fair. I do think it was a memorial. The memorial that took place to rally people, maybe, but nonetheless, a memorial here in Arizona for Charlie Kirk. And I think that Turning Point USA and others understand that. They're going to continue to hold events because you can't just have the single big event and say, yes, now we're more resolved. Everything is, the game has changed. It's a new day. And then you don't follow up with that. That's the big mistake that churches make all the time. They base everything off of a single big event, right? We're having our big retreat, we're having our big revival, what have you, and nothing ever changes. Excuse me, nothing ever happens because these things aren't done in a single event. okay? It's the consistent work that is carried on week after week. And I think that's what people hopefully are going to realize is necessary. I think there's some people that are realizing it on more of a smaller scale, like churches. They realize, hey, I've been going to these big churches, or at least these very contemporary churches, and they've always got some new gig, some new gimmick, some new theme that pumps us up, and it's entertaining, it's exciting, but it's just experiences, okay? And experiences can motivate you, but that's not where the work gets done. The work gets done on everything that comes after that. So, you know, even our Bible conferences, they're excellent. I love Bible conferences, but they're an event. And it's exciting, it can be motivating, but what do you do after that? What are you going to do after the Bible conference is over? Do you just sit around and do nothing until the next Bible conference? Well, then you're not going to gain any knowledge. You're not going to grow. You're not going to increase. You've got to study yourself. You've got to do the necessary work. So I hope that after the memorial of Charlie Kirk, people will follow in suit. They will engage in discussion. They will engage in a very bold defense of whether it's defending traditional marriage or defending the life of the unborn or speaking out against the evils of Marxism and how it really is an anti-God mentality, what have you. There's a whole host of issues that we could explore. All of the terrible things that have fallen out when it comes to feminism and the idea of critical race theory and the subtle racism that's in that. So I'm excited for all those things. That's what's got to happen. Okay, it's gonna be what comes after this. It's the consistent week in and week out. Ministries, for example, do not make their great accomplishments by having just their big events. Okay, like their big single monthly activities, promotions, you name it. It's got to be the consistent Bible teaching, sound doctrine, verse-by-verse Bible study. That's going to be the key moving forward, okay? I think that we've seen a number of excellent Bible teachers demonstrate that by just showing consistency, okay? You can count on them that every single week they're going to be exploring matters of doctrine. So hopefully that same format can be carried over here into the political realm, the political discussion. This can't just be a single event that's kind of used to get some nice little sound bites. It really does need to spark a fundamental shift in how conservatism operates. Because the entire concept of conservatism is that there's a God, is that there's a creator, is that we have a higher authority. And if we're going to engage in this discussion, Charlie Kirk knew how to do it. He argued from Scripture. He argued from the Bible. And so that's the key. All right. It's not just a single big event that's going to get America back on the right track, that's going to cause a dramatic shift in the conversation or the culture. It's going to be consistently approaching all of these different matters, political, cultural, which all these things are intertwined. Theology, it all comes down to theology, and theology will be manifest in political and cultural, societal matters. But how are we going to do it? We've got to do it by being very well prepared, very well studied, and arguing from a biblical worldview. So hopefully this isn't just some, event to try to capture the moment. It is really acknowledging this guy, this man, Charlie Kirk. He was onto something, and he did a lot of things right. And so we're going to remember him, and then we're going to move forward, and we're going to keep that approach in the focal point. All right, that's what we're aiming towards. And so young people, I hope, realize that it's got to be a lifestyle. Okay, you can use the analogy. Everybody has their moment, whether oftentimes around New Year's, your resolution. I'm not going to eat junk food. I'm going to work out. Well, having your moment of declaration doesn't do anything. What matters is what happens on January 1st. What do you do then? Are you going to follow through with what you said on December 31st? And what about January 2nd? It's consistency. It's working day in and day out. So there was a lot of politicians and different people who said a lot of good things. I do think overall good things, very motivational things about how we're going to change things in this country. It cannot go back to being the same old, same old. All right? It's got to be true conviction. It's got to be biblically based. It's got to be good arguments. It's got to be bold. So that's what we need. Rick says, my Trump is much better than Donald Jr. Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Ken says it sure would have been nice to have at least one right divider speaker to state the correct gospel of grace. Yeah, it'd been nice if they'd had Dr. White there. Luke says, unfortunately, the people I'm seeing that are sick of evangelicalism are ending up gravitating towards Catholicism and Calvinism. Yes, because they don't know that right division is an option. I agree with you, Luke. Calvinism, Catholicism is on the rise. It's seen as traditional. It's seen as doctrinal, I guess because it is to a large degree. Yeah, they just don't know you have another option. That's why a lot of people turn to Calvinism, because Calvinism is the only systematic theology they've ever been exposed to. If we could ever get them introduced to rightly dividing the Bible, I think we would persuade some. Yeah, for the tradition, Luke adds, especially for Catholicism. And Calvinism has that too. I think that's why you will see some increasing in the Presbyterian movement, even maybe Anglicanism, the Anglicans, because it has that history, that tradition to it. And so I get it. I understand why. I understand the appeal. I just think that they just don't know that rightly dividing the Bible is an option for them. Ken says, trap them in the snare of contextual Bible study. That's it. That's it. If you think they're scared of the word dispensationalism or rightly dividing, yeah, just call it contextual Bible study. Going back up, discussing the topic on autism, I think. Ken said our son Ryan's case, his autism dramatically increased after required vaccinations around the age of 12. That's interesting. And that's the thing. There's so many people, a lot of these, 30-year-old white women who want to yell on social media. We just tell like it is around here, especially if they're even slightly in the medical field, and they want to say how silly it is to think that there's any correlation. My question is, why do you have to just completely shoot it down? I thought the whole idea of the scientific method was to investigate. They say, well, there are no tests or no studies that show there's any correlation or connection between vaccinations and autism or any kind of medication and autism. Okay, fine. Can we run another? Can we not? What if we try a different way to approach the test? Are we allowed to do that? Isn't that science? Hasn't there been like a lot of times when science said this is the way it is and it turned out that wasn't the way it was? I mean, it seems like, wasn't there a time when doctors were bloodletting, performing lobotomies, stuff like that? Can we not just say, hey, let's just explore all the possibilities? That's my thoughts. And Ryan's awesome, by the way. I'm hearing the rain coming down, so I don't know how long we're going to keep our connection here. But yeah, I think that's all I'm going to have for you tonight. I'll let you go at 9:35 at night. A little bit shorter show. That's all right. I didn't have a ton of things to explore. This is the thoughts I have. Okay, that's why my ministry, the pattern of the ministry, the template that I follow, learning from others is, it can't be based upon the gimmicks. The YouTube videos that are edited that sometimes will get a number of views, that's really fun. Doing some events, going and speaking at other places, doing a Bible conference, those are really fun, and I love them, and I hope you do too. Doing all those little extra things, right? It's hard to call the Bible conferences little because I work really hard on them, but my point is, at the end of it all, it's meeting on Wednesday night to study Abraham. Like that's how we're going to do this. That's how we're going to persuade people. That's how we're going to be edified. That's how we're going to change things, because it's the day in, day out, week in, week out consistency, not just giving a rah-rah, go-get-'em speech and living off of a high for a little bit. It's the habitual practice of sound doctrine, dedicated study, and excellence is hopefully what we're achieving.